January 9th, 2023. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Schweikert, for 30 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Okay. Every week I come behind this microphone and I walk through the demographics and the debt and try to demonstrate that the primary driver of debt is the fact, is our demographics, our health. I've brought lots and lots of charts here over the last couple of years, sort of demonstrating sort of the death spiral the country is heading towards. When total interest this year is going to be maybe just a little shy of 1.2 trillion, making interest the second biggest expenditure in this government. So Social Security will be about $1.480 trillion, interest 1.2, and then believe it or not, defense and Medicare are fighting for who's going to be third and fourth. But I thought it would actually be more honorable to come behind this mic and say, all right, we've defined the problem over and over and over and over. I don't seem to be making much progress with my brothers and sisters being willing to accept the actual math, because our friends from the left, tax rich people more, we'll take care of the problem. And then we show them the economic papers that make it clear, you could maximize people's taxes for those over $400,000 on their income tax, their estate tax, the whole list of taxes. And when you do the economic effects, you get about 1.5% of GDP. For us on the right, we have all sorts of things we want to cut. But if we're limited to only non-defense discretionary, we come up with about 1% of GDP. Problem is, this year we're borrowing close to, I think our run rate in the last 365 days is like 8% of GDP. Long run is 6, 7, 8% over the years. Anyone see the math problem? When the left solutions and the right solutions are combined and you get 2.5%, and you're borrowing 6, 7, 8% of GDP, the size of the economy, maybe we need to have a brutally honest conversation of what's the driver of debt and the things that provide a solution that also have the chance of passing here. So here's the board that gets the most complaints to my office, so let's do it again. From today through the next 30 years, and this is in the president's math, this is in the CBO's math, this is in the outside group's math, 100% of the debt from today through the next 30 years. Interest, healthcare, and if a decade from now the decision is, hey, the Social Security Trust Fund is gone and we're not going to let people take a 21 to 25% cut and double senior poverty, and we backfill Social Security. So right here, the new number isn't 116. This is my older board. I think it's somewhere now in the 120s, 130 trillion dollars in 30 years. But the rest of the budget is flat. It pretty much grows with the growth of the economy. It's healthcare. If you want to disrupt debt, make this society healthier, or adopt technology that makes government smaller. So let's actually sort of walk through some of these things. I brought this board again just to reemphasize what I was just saying. The new number on Social Security for this coming year is $1.480 trillion. My math has actually the interest being a little bit higher, and then you see defense and Medicare. So think of that. When you think defense and Medicare are now down here, third and fourth, and Medicare, I think Medicare is spending maybe up as much as 10% so far this year. So let's see. If I came to you and said, all right, here's the stack of solutions. In previous years, I would come here with all sorts of charts, and I would show sort of my holistic, unified theory, saying, okay, you had to do things in immigration. You had to do things in fixing the tax code to maximize investment and growth. Over here, you had to legalize adoption of technology to crash the price of healthcare. Over here, you had to do things to make the society much more competitive and less oligopolies in our economy, big players. And I kept trying to show we had like 20, 21 things you had to do almost at the same time. And it felt like I was making no progress. The reality of it is we're in real trouble. A couple of weeks ago, I came here and did the demographics. And I knew everyone was right on the edge of their seats wanting to understand demographics, except demographics is your destiny. In 15 years, we model this country has more deaths than births. Understand what's going on. Yet you have your Medicare system, your Social Security, that are sort of a pay-as-you-go system. But the number of children, the number of young people, the number of future workers we're going to have in this society, we're in trouble. So you're going to have to do things like technology substitution. And what the hell does that mean? We're going to walk through some of that. So I have a stack of articles, some boards, and we're going to sort of walk through one of those pillars that we talk about. The two biggest changes I expect in society, in the economy, in the world over the next decade or two will be synthetic biology and artificial intelligence. So let's talk about just one of the things on our list of like 21 disruptions of what we could fixate on policy-wise to make government smaller, more efficient, more moral. And maybe your retirement doesn't have to implode on you, and maybe my little kids, yes, I have young kids, have a future, because the math says right now that child that's young today will be poorer than their parents. First generation U.S. history, the expectation, the math says, this young generation is going to be poorer. Does anyone see just the apocalyptic morality in that? So what's going on here? Why are we so terrified to tell the truth? Well, I'll tell you one of the reasons you tell the truth. You come here and you walk people through the actual math of Social Security, the actual math of Medicare, how we're going to save it, what we have to do, and you will get attack ads because, God forbid, you told the truth, and this side, particularly over there, cares much more about winning the next election than saving this country, saving your retirement, the morality of you actually receiving the earned benefits you worked for. Because the politics are so much more important. Winning the next election is so much more important than doing what's right. So let's actually sort of walk through some ideas here. First off, I'm going to do this in the next couple of weeks. There's now starting to be economic models and discussions talking about how the debt is going to make us all poor and how it's starting to do that. The fact that how much of your taxes, when I've shown things here where every dime a member of Congress votes on today is on borrowed money. And so far this fiscal year, every dime of discretionary, every dime of defense, and actually like a quarter of Medicare are on borrowed money. And the fact that this year you're going to spend about $1.2 trillion of your tax receipts in interest. And remember, over the last 12 months, I think we've had 1 or 2 months, maybe 3 months, where we actually had to borrow money to pay for our borrowed money, to pay the interest. Think about that. And the fact of the matter, now we're starting to see the economists do articles explaining we are all going to be poorer because of the financing costs now on this debt and deficits. So let's actually walk through, what would you do? If I came to you right now and said, you live in the time of miracles. We're curing diseases, and we're going to cure more diseases. We don't have to live with misery. There's ways, we're on the cusp of having major disruptions in diabetes, in other diseases. We can make government more efficient and smaller. So let's actually just talk about AI tonight. Article from Stars and Stripes, talking about the Pentagon being substantially unauditable. We do not know where almost $4 trillion in assets are. So there's parts of this article, parts of the other articles here, talking about things that the Pentagon buys things because they don't know if they have it in inventory. Other articles that we could actually use technology to actually crawl through government, and it would be the ultimate whistleblower. And so some of us have been trying, saying, why don't we do something creative? I need you to think so. If you watch too much cable television, over here, AI is going to destroy the world. Okay, there's generative AI that crawls through and can write its code. Over here is a stack that just wants accounting data, that just is looking for assets and inventories and liabilities and those things. That's what we're talking about at this moment. How about if we did something creative? If you've just had, I think, the 8th year where the Pentagon has functionally come back as unauditable because we can't do the asset list, how about allowing an AI crawler, an AI accounting package, to go up and down those asset lists and identify what we own, what we don't own, what we think we have, what we don't think we have, what we really own? So you don't get crazy articles like this one from Stars and Stripes basically saying, this was not surprising. Pentagon again fails its audit. And 3.8 trillion in military assets, we're not sure where the hell they are. Well, we're going to offer this as an amendment in the next day or so on the National Defense Authorization Bill. We'll see if our brothers and sisters here are willing to say, hey, maybe some technology is better than building after building after building full of people looking at accounting lists and can't figure out what the hell it says. Maybe we should actually protect the American taxpayer, but also protect our national defense by knowing what we owe and what we don't own. It's a simple solution. It's also the adoption and the future of what could you do in this government if you would allow AI crawlers to go up and down inventories, assets, where there's maybe misallocation, where there's proper allocation, where there's people maybe playing games with resources. Why wouldn't you do that? You know, the Government Accounting Office can only do so much. But the crowdsourcing of the data, the constant crawling, this exists today. Let's do it. And it's just, once again, the concept of, can we use technology to make government smaller? Of course we can. And look, I got to be brutally honest. Here's an article that was talking about using AI in certain parts of healthcare. And it crashed and burned. But if you actually get into the academic article, it's an academic article, they were using ChatGPT. May I suggest you don't try to use chat as your diagnostician? Okay? But it turns out I have 4 or 5 times more articles talking about when they use specific AI designed to look at cancer, to look at other things. It was remarkable. So let's actually sort of go on through the changing of government. What would happen if you've had the experience of trying to call the IRS? And you call them, and you call them, and you call them, and you sit on hold, and you sit on hold, then you get to someone, talk to someone who may not have the specialty, may not understand what you're asking. So there's been an experiment. I got to give the IRS credit on this one. It's a small experiment. They did it last tax season, this tax season. For a small portion, when you called, you were actually talking to a chat AI. But think about the experiment that they agreed to do and where this may take us. Imagine if you called the IRS and it stays on the phone with you because it picked up the phone, because it has ultimate capacity, because you're actually talking to a plain language computer that sounds every bit like a person, but stays on the phone with you, listens to you, walks you through on how to fill out your form. If you need the form, it can email it to you, it can text it to you. It can even actually walk you through other forms you might need because of what you're doing. That's morality, and it would make government less expensive. It would shrink the size of government. This is heresy, and it's brutal, but the fact of the matter is people are really, really expensive in government. And one of the ways, if you're going to start cutting budgets, yet you still want efficiency, you want the morality of accessibility for the public, start thinking about how many government agencies because they're always marching in here complaining that they can't hire anyone anyway. Well, let's replace those slots with technology that will actually give you the answers you're actually looking for because it has the full information set in front of it. This is the moral way to do it. So let's actually sort of walk through some of this more. If I came to you right now and said, what is the most powerful thing you could do if I only gave you several months and you had to come up with some way to disrupt the cost of healthcare? We estimate, and we have multiple academic articles that say about 16% of all healthcare spending is people failing to stay on their pharmaceutical regime. They have hypertension. They don't take their calcium inhibitor. They have cholesterol that's clogging their arteries. They don't take their statin. They don't adhere. Well, it turns out you could do things just like this, where is it really AI, or is it just using basic technology where the pill bottle cap beeps at you and says, hey, you haven't opened me today. It's really important because this pill only costs 7 cents, but if you stroke out, it could be $1 million. Turns out, my next board I think there's a math problem here. This one basically said the estimate for people not taking their prescriptions is $528 billion per year. My math was closer to $600 billion. I think my math is right, because if it's 16-17% of all healthcare spend, this is simple. It's moral. It's not really AI, but it's use of technology to crash the price of delivering healthcare. And we've had pieces of legislation in this place for years just saying, why don't we try to help drug adherence so people stay healthier? Oh, David, we can't run a bill like that. We'd have to explain it. So look, here's an article I grabbed just 2 days ago, largest ever antibiotic discovery by AI. We just discovered a whole new categories of antibiotics. Remember the panic over the previous couple of years that so many of our antibiotics were becoming inefficient, superbugs? Guess what? AI may have just discovered new ones to actually work through it. If I actually, now this isn't an Apple Watch on here, but about 3 weeks ago, Apple just got its next generation of watch approved by the FDA for monitoring your heart. It's now, the heart portion of it is a medical device. So I want you to think about the morality. We keep talking about how do we keep our brothers and sisters healthier, but yet if you're heading towards a world where, and I'm going to show some more boards in this concept, where you could have it on your wrist, the thing you're able to blow into, the thing you lick, the thing, the sort of personal medical lab you can have in your home medicine cabinet, or it's on your body. Met with some folks, a week ago, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, sepsis. So you've had surgery, and once the doctors or the nurses or the medical professionals see it, it's often really, really dangerous. But using AI and a couple sensors on your body, they can see the tiny movements in temperature, the tiny changes in respiration, and know there's something going on and know there's something that has to be dealt with. How many lives, how much healthier would we be by just adopting that bit of technology? It's here already. And now we're living in the world where you could actually have a medical lab attached to you. Why don't we actually legalize some of this technology? The thing you can blow into that has an incredibly high level of accuracy, that can tell you have a virus, can bang off your phone your medical records and know you're not allergic to a certain antiviral, and could order your antivirals. You know that's substantially illegal in this country. Your ability to have that breath biopsy, that flu kazoo, is functionally illegal, but it would help crash the price of healthcare and you would be healthier. And the army of people in these hallways around here demanding, we need to subsidize more people because we don't have enough medical professionals because we're getting older. Yeah, we've been talking about that for years. Maybe we could do some substitution effects with technology and the morality of having a healthier society. And look, we're about to see a revolution in cures. One of our arguments is the most moral thing this Congress can do is not help you maintain your misery. It's one of my great angers at our Democrat colleagues. You realize they passed legislation to functionally hand $16 billion of your tax money to Big Pharma. Yes, I'm using their language, not mine. Their language. Big Pharma, we're going to give $16 billion to buy down the price of insulin. And at the same time, 75 miles from here, there's a co-op making three types of generic insulin. Go look them up, Civica RX. 3 brands or 3 types of cheaper than the subsidized price, but the Democrats' ability to basically have it both ways. Oh, Big Pharma is evil. There's some cash. Here's $16 billion. That's their idea of morality, is they're going to functionally finance your misery. Over on our side, I've been passionately trying to get this place to fixate on some of the cures. We think we're getting close to a cure for type 1. There's some miracles happening on type 2. We actually, in a week, actually this Friday, we're going to publish a report in the Joint Economic Committee that's going to get, I'm going to get crap for it. But you're going to see a top-line number that over the next 10 years, obesity will cost this country as high as $9.1 trillion over the next 10 years. Single biggest spend in this government. And our brothers and sisters are dying. I think we're about to have the 5th year in a row where prime-age males are dying younger. Think of that. You have a country where people's life expectancy is falling. And we're going to pass a farm bill, nutrition support, not actually think about should it be nutrition, should it be actually nutrition support, or is it calorie support? This government fights against itself. We actually give you an EBT card to go buy onion rings, and on this side, we're going to cover your health care costs when you're sick. Have we lost our, yes, we have lost our minds. But we're actually seeing all sorts of data, and I have some of the articles here. AI tool finds variant for heart disease. The AI figured out there's 17 genes to look at that will actually give us an indicator if you're going to have a certain types of heart disease. AI traces mysterious metastatic cancer to its source. This is one of the most fascinating, and I actually have almost a binder just on this one, how Google's new AI could revolutionize medicine. But if you go in there, because I know all of you are really smart and you read this crazy stuff. I mean, you've all read about the Google Fold, you know, folding a protein over certain things so it can be actually delivered and actually withstand in your body and actually start to help cure you. You live in the time of miracles. And this place here is one of the biggest barriers to those miracles coming to market. It's absolutely immoral. And we're actually, in some ways, the way we have, look, FDA does some amazing things, but it was designed decades and decades and decades ago. Can we make sure they have the tools to understand? We have these things called supercomputers today. We have AI that can grind through data and look at article after article and population statistics and these things. There's actually lots of data right now saying we could cut the time down in half, bringing cures and miracles to market. I would argue this is our obligation. This is people's lives. Besides the fact of the morality, it's also really good economics and would be great for the borrowing. Remember, we're hovering between sort of $80,000 and $100,000 a second borrowing. Majority of that growth in that borrowing is interest and healthcare costs. Crash the price of healthcare. Incorporating AI creates cost savings. We actually had some success in this idea last week. We were able to get 2 AI amendments attached to the VA bill, just to actually start with the claims side, the bureaucracy side, to actually move some of that faster. And it was the vast majority of our brothers and sisters here, even though maybe the union didn't like it, But this is the right thing to do. It started to pass. We got actually another one passed, which actually, and this is just for the VA, but towards studying how do we streamline and mitigate the financing mechanisms to make the VA more efficient and much more nimble, and actually reduce the cost. These are just inch by inch by inch. Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, can I inquire on the time?
The gentleman has 4 minutes remaining.
Oh, heaven forbid. I don't know if I can actually talk any faster and still have the poor. I'm so sorry. Sometimes when I start to talk like a machine gun. Look, another piece of legislation we have is you talk to doctors' offices, you talk to surgery centers, you talk to clinics, and they will tell you half their cost is just administrative. The people having to do the back paperwork, the people in the front office. So just walk through a concept, because this actually exists today. You walk up to the counter in your surgery center or your doctor's office. You talk to a screen that has it, and it writes down. You don't actually have to fill out the little thing on the pad. You say, hi, I'm David. And here's my numbers. Here's this, here's that. And in the back office, they use technology. Not a room full of clerks doing paperwork to fight back and forth with the insurance company. You could crash the price of a healthcare clinic in half. And we already have some companies starting to do this. Look, we have another one that actually starts to help the concept of, is telehealth? Well, why isn't it digital health? The ability to use technology to help you take care of yourself. And then article after article that we live in the time of miracles. How do I get my brothers and sisters here to help us realize if we would just change some of the incentives in this place? There's another generation of miracle drugs coming. There's actually the ability of another generation of things that cure people. And I keep trying to argue here, you want to crash the debt and deficits? You want to crash spending? Cure diseases. Make people's lives less miserable. But there will be armies of lobbyists in our hallways who these disrupt their business models. I'm going to ask our brothers and sisters here, do the right thing. Don't be afraid of the technology. The disruption is the morality, is the future, and is one of the ways, just one of the levers that we save ourselves from this crashing and crushing debt. With that, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, thank you for your patience. I yield back.